Hey friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm going to be talking to you today about 4 things that you can do in your business if you have an online business to protect yourself. Because the bottom line is that you are very vulnerable if you're not putting a couple of things into place in the online space. I'm going to tell you kind of what got me thinking about this topic this week, which was finding out someone who lost her business overnight because of the way she had it set up online, and it just grieved me. So I want to do whatever I can to help my small business friends to make sure that is not the case with them and to put some things into place to make sure they're protected. So stay tuned. Well, hello, friend. Welcome back to the podcast. This is episode number 156. And I'm going to talk to you today about 4 ways you can protect yourself in the online space with your business. And the reason I have this podcast episode stirring in my heart is because I was recently made aware of a woman who just lost her business online, and it like grieves me and it hurts my heart. And I'm like, no, ladies, there's ways we can protect ourselves. And so I'm going to do a podcast episode about 4 things you need to be doing to make sure you and your family are protected. And so first, I want to talk just real quick about a review that I got recently from a woman named Bridget, who has a women's clothing boutique online called Hello Fancy Boutique. And she said, let's just be real here. After a good month of letting fear control me, I prayed for direction. And then bam, Jennifer's 40 days of prayers popped up into my Facebook feed. Listening to her has made her turn more to him in more aspects than just business, but with her family also. Thank you, Jennifer, for being a vessel to strengthen my relationship with the Lord, and also giving me some kick butt tips about running a successful business. And so thank you so much, Bridget. I just pray a blessing over you and your Hello Fancy Boutique. And thank you so much for leaving a review, because friends, the reviews matter. Like, number one, I love it when you guys leave reviews so that I can go give you a shout out here on the podcast, which gets, thousands and thousands and thousands of downloads every month. So hopefully it'll get your business, some new eyeballs and some new clients, but also it just helps us to get really great podcast guests and to go up in the ratings and the rankings in terms of what is recommended for other people to listen to. So thank you. Appreciate you. All right. So here's what happened this week. I'm laying in bed last night. I'm minding my own business, you guys, just minding my own business. And I have someone message me, and she sent me the screenshot from a precious woman on Instagram who has a business called Bedbugs Boutique. And essentially, I went through, all of her really sweet, really vulnerable Instagram stories last night. And it looks like what happened is that last week, and I'm paraphrasing greatly here, they were notified that their Etsy account had been taken down. And this is a mom who is married. If I understand correctly, she has 6 children, and their Etsy account is their sole income provider. And so I don't even know exactly what she's selling on Etsy. That doesn't even matter. What matters is overnight, just like that, in the snap of fingers, her business was gone. And so people were sending me her Instagram stories because they know how passionate I am about this. I watched her stories. It sounds like what perhaps happened, because the thing is, Etsy doesn't have to give you a reason for taking down your Etsy account. Did you know that? If you are on Etsy right now, I so need you to listen to this and stop, because here's what I think happens sometimes with business owners. It's almost like we're back in 4th grade and we're like putting our fingers in our ear and we're like, la, 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 la. No, it's working for me. It's working for me, Jen. It's working for me. Well, I'm here to show you a woman that thought it was working for her too. And then the devastation that is now happening, because when you have all of your eggs into Etsy's basket, you are essentially working for another boss. If any of you have ever worked in, corporate America, or for somebody other than yourself, and been laid off or fired, you know that feeling. You know how vulnerable that is. You know how that feels, right? Well, it's the same thing when you're putting all of your eggs into Etsy's basket. Etsy is the boss of you. Etsy is the boss of you. And so to keep our fingers in our ears and la, 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 I don't want to hear it. Etsy's working really good for me. Well, it works great until it doesn't. It works great until it doesn't. So it sounds like in her case, this precious woman, what perhaps happened was that there was a lot of bad weather, and which is of no surprise to me. I think my kids have gone to school like 1 week solid since Christmas. Otherwise, we just keep having school canceled for snow and ice. So she got some orders out late because she got the supplies late because roads were sketchy, delivery times were, whatever. So she had like 2 complaints that were filed against her. And apparently there's a rule on Etsy about, you have to have a rating of X and above. And those 2 people that perhaps complained put her below the point. So anyway, the point is just that her Etsy was gone. And from what I understand, by the way, I've never been on Etsy, and this is why. Well, also I don't shop on Etsy, so I would never have an account on Etsy. But if you've got an account on Etsy, or you know someone who does, please send this podcast episode to them. Please, I'm begging you, because when you decide to go on Etsy and that's your only form of making money, if they change the rules, or if they determine that you violated the rules knowingly or unknowingly, or if they just decide to change the commission structure or whatever, you have zero say about that. You have zero say, which leaves you so wide open for devastation. And so see, when you're a business owner and you're doing your business in the online space, there has to be this thing that changes in your mind from, okay, I'm no longer just a hobbyist, like I'm an entrepreneur. Because what happens is a woman will start an Etsy shop, and I see it time and time again, and she'll start to make a little money, and she'll be like, hey, woo, that's me dancing, you know. She's getting all excited, and then she starts making more and putting it on Etsy. She starts selling more, and her family starts getting used to that income, and it's amazing. And maybe she's heard me in my inner circle talk about how, you got to have a website in addition to Etsy. Maybe she's heard that, but she keeps thinking, okay, I'm just going to make a little bit more money, or I just don't have the time right now to do that because I'm trying to fill these orders. But I will. And then time and time again, I've heard of stories of women whose Etsy's accounts are then gone. They've gotten used to that income. The income's now gone. They didn't have anything else set up as a backup plan. And they're left just wide open. I had a woman named Leanna Canfield who messaged me this morning, and she watched my Instagram stories about how I hate it when Etsy does this to people. And she said that in her own case, she had gotten 2 complaints from people, and her sales used to be $1,000 a month on Etsy. And after those 2 complaints, like Etsy put her way lower in the search, and then now she's down to like $10 a month. You guys, that's like a 99% reduction in income a month. You got to set yourself up different than that, friend. So listen, if you're on Etsy, here's what I want to tell you right now. You can be on Etsy. Do Etsy to the glory of God. You do Etsy so stinking good, but you also have a website. And you spend way more time trying to get the people that are, looking for your stuff on Etsy to look to your website. You spend way more time on that. And I know what instantly you're going to say, I can't afford a website. Babe, you can't afford not to. It's like tithing. You can't afford not to have your own website. That you can't afford to is such a lame excuse. I mean, I love you, but there are all sorts of creative ways of getting a website done. Number one, you've got little people who live in your home who call you mom. And if they can figure out how to do things on the YouTubes, and they can figure out how to make a TikTok, and they can figure out how to do Instagram stories, they can also probably figure out how to set mom up her first Shopify store. That's the truth. You want your phone bill paid this month, Noah? You're going to help mom figure out how to do XYZ. Don't think I haven't pulled that on my kids before. You've got little people in your home that understand technology. They can get you a Shopify store up this weekend, or Wix or whatever. But the I can't afford it's got to stop. I at one point bartered painting a guy's kitchen cabinet solid black for him. He was a bachelor, was a friend of my husband's, in exchange for a new website. There are all sorts of ways you can be creative here. Websites aren't what they used to be. It's not like it takes $5,000 anymore to start one. There are things like Shopify that make it so much easier. So we're big girls and we're entrepreneurs, and saying I can't afford a website is not going to fly. It's the cost of having a business. So you do Etsy to the glory of God, but you also, please, for the love, get your own website. It's the only thing. Your email list and your website are the only things you control online. Did you know that? Nothing else is yours. Those are the only 2 things you can control. Figure out what you're going to name that website. Go. Get it started today. Go, go, go. Run. Because when I see women lose their entire business overnight, it breaks my heart. What's really cool is we had someone step up and already say, hey, I have an extra ticket to your Equipped conference in April, Jennifer. I'd like to give it to that girl. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my people are just the nicest on the planet. So there's that. So that was point number 1 in the 4 ways to protect your online business. Number 1, you can't put all of your eggs into Etsy's basket. Number 2, you can't put all of your eggs into any social media basket either. So if you've been in my inner circle for any length of time, you will have heard me say this, but social media is also the boss of you. And I keep saying that because I've got my book right behind me here. Fear is not the boss of you, but Etsy is the boss of you and Facebook is the boss of you. Or if you're on Instagram, Instagram's the boss of you. Like when it comes to social media, your account is yours, but yet there's rules and you are fully expected to adhere to the terms of service on each of the native platforms. And if you unknowingly or knowingly violate those, you can really be in trouble. So let's say that you build your following only on Facebook, okay? And years ago, I had a huge following on Facebook and I lost my Facebook page for 3 days. So I am the perfect one to talk to you about this. Right now, my Facebook Live button is missing. There is speculation from a couple of people who, one is a Facebook ads guru, that the reason my Facebook Live button is missing is because I have been doing some material on Facebook that people could view as controversial. Things like I wasn't a fan of the Super Bowl show. Things like I did a lot of prayer in December on Facebook. I've posted some things recently about my hair loss and a particular brand of hair products. And so there is some speculation that I'm being censored on Facebook, and this is why my Facebook Live button is gone. I don't know. We'll have to ask Mark Zuckerberg when I see him next. But anywho, so I lost my Facebook page, like for violating terms of service. It's probably been 3 or 4 years ago now. And I can tell you it was devastating because I had a couple 100,000 followers at that point. And so you cannot put all of your eggs into just Facebook's basket or just Instagram or just Pinterest or just the TikTok or just whatever. So a savvy business owner is always going to have at least 2 social medias that she's operating on. Okay. So here's my advice. I always say pick Facebook because it's the giant. I don't care how much you love the Snapchats. Facebook is still the giant in terms of the number of people on it and the number of people accessing it every day. Even though people are like, oh, I'm so tired of Facebook, I'm going to take a break. They're back in 10 minutes. You see them 3 days later. So people are still on Facebook. It's still the giant, regardless of how we feel about it. So it's got to be Facebook plus one other one. So for me, it's Facebook and Instagram. For me, it used to be Facebook and Pinterest, but make sure you have a second social media that people can find you on, that you are able to send traffic back to your website to make some sales. Okay. I'm going to give you a couple of tips right now about all of your social media that I'm going to need for you to write down so that you don't forget these later. Don't forget, I did a tip a couple weeks ago on my podcast where I said, while you're listening to me right now, you can literally hit the side of your iPhone and say, Siri, make a note, and then just repeat what I need to say if you're driving. Repeat what I need to say. Repeat what I just said if you want to make note of it, and then it'll pick back up on the podcast playing again. But okay, for any of you who have a Facebook business page, you are doing business like a business and you have a Facebook, you can call them a fan page, you can call them whatever, but your business page, you have to make sure that number one, you have 2-factor authentication set up. Why do you need that? Well, in addition to you possibly just losing your page on your own, there are hackers everywhere. And it's wild because you wouldn't think that hackers would care about little accounts, right? You wouldn't think that like people, would mess with people that don't have millions of followers, but oh, they do. And please understand that it's not just because they're trying to like take over and hack your Facebook or your Instagram. It's often because then if they can get into things like that and you've got some ads accounts set up, that sometimes they're able to then to access and figure out ways into your bank account. Okay, I remember hearing Chalene Johnson talking about this years ago and thinking, oh my Lord have mercy, when she was hacked. And I remember how scary that was for her. And I remember being like, oh, dang, okay, make mental note of all of this. And so, that's been a couple years ago and some things have changed, but there's a couple things you can do to protect yourself. Okay, so number one, you always have a second social media. Number two, in order of protecting yourself against scammers, hackers, like what, don't you even wonder like, okay, what do they do at night? Like first of all, who are they? And second of all, like why? Like, I don't understand the point. But anywho, you need to have, here's what you need to make note of. 2-factor authentication set up on every social media. So basically this is just an added layer of protection. 2-factor authentication means that for somebody to get into your account, there's 2 things that have to be verified. So like if you have 2-factor authentication set up on your Facebook and somebody at another location or on another device other than what Facebook is used to seeing you log into, if somebody is to log in there, you're going to get a text message or an email immediately. Like Facebook will alert you that somebody's doing that and they're going to ask them for a code. And it's like a second layer of protection. So you need 2-factor authentication set up like yesterday. Okay, so that's one thing. Second thing, you need a second page administrator and administrator to all of your social medias set up immediately as well. Because here's what's happened, or is what's happened or can happen. Okay, let's say that I don't have anybody else set up as an admin on my Facebook page. If Jennifer Allwood, the person that has kids and likes to, let my mom know about the cute little, 6th grade concert Ava had or something, like, I'm putting that on my personal Jennifer page. I'm not putting it on my business page, right? But if I do something sideways as Jennifer Allwood, just the person, like the friend page, the one that all my friends and family have, if I do something weird there, if I do something to violate Facebook there, if I do anything kind of wonky there that could get my personal page taken away, then I no longer have access to my business page. Now, I know what you're going to think. That doesn't ever happen. Oh, yes, sis, it does. It happens to people all the time. Like, there's people who have built their network marketing on their personal page because that's what they've been taught to do. By the way, don't even get me started on that. And they hit their maximum of 5,000 personal friends that they can have because Facebook's smart. They know exactly what you're doing. You're trying to build a business on your personal page, which is against their terms of service. So I know of so many women who have done that, and then on Facebook catches wind of it, and Facebook takes down and taps their personal page, and then they no longer have access to a business page, even if they weren't using it. And then their business is like in the gutter. And so you have to have a second admin. So years ago, Carrie Robina, before I had anybody on my team, was my best business buddy. I set her up as my admin on my page. That way, if for some reason anything ever went wrong with me, Carrie would have access to it. What if I was in a horrible car accident and in the hospital for months? Carrie would have access to it. What if anything that happened, at least somebody that I trust would have access to it. So it could be your spouse. My spouse wasn't on social media. It could be your best business buddy. It could be somebody else on your team, but somebody other than just you has got to be an admin on your page. So please do that today. Another thing I want you to do on Facebook is I want you to make sure you have a Facebook ads account going. So you're running ads on Facebook, even if it's just $1 or $2 a day. I can't afford that. Yes, you can. It's $30 to $60 a month. And this is called advertising. Advertising. And this is what every company in the world who has decent sales does. And it's not just money you're throwing out the door. It's money you're throwing out the door, and you should get 3, 4, 5 times back the revenue. So if you're going to advertise for $60 a month, hopefully you're going to make at least $240 back. So you know what I mean? You're going to make 4 times back that. So when you think of advertising, I don't want you to just think of like throwing spaghetti at the wall. It's throwing spaghetti at the wall and then suddenly having this huge pasta meal with a loaf of bread and a beautiful Caesar salad right next to you. I mean, you're going to get something back, sis. So here's what I want, gosh, words are hard. Here's why I want you to have a Facebook ads account, because if anything ever goes weird on your page, when you have a Facebook ads account, you at least have access to a person inside of the ads manager that you can get a little more personalized help from than you can just by going to Facebook's regular help. Does that make sense? But here's the one thing I want to warn you about, and then I'll get off of talking about social media here. But if you have a Facebook ads account, I want you to be super careful at who you give access to. Recently, Rhoda from, let me see. Hang on here. I'm going to tell you who Rhoda's from. It doesn't matter. You know what? Here's what I'll have you. Can you take that part out, Zeke? Recently, I know a blogger who's been blogging for probably 15 years. She was blogging before blogging was ever cool. And recently, she gave someone access to her Facebook ads account, and they hacked it. And they took over her page, and they took her off of her Facebook page, and havoc ensued. And so just know that if you are hiring somebody to do your Facebook ads, please be smart. You never give access to someone who you have not vetted, who you do not know, some people that have personally used them and recommended them. You don't give them all the access all at once either, but that's a whole nother thing. You've got to be really smart with your social media, and you have to make sure you're not just putting all of your eggs into your social media basket. So number 1 was, yep, you can do Etsy, but you have to do Etsy in your own website. Number 2, way to protect yourself on your online business is make sure that you are protecting your social media with 2-factor authentication, having a second social media, making sure that you're careful about your ads manager, making sure that there's a second admin on there, etc. Okay. Third way to protect your online business is to be building that email list baby. Okay, so here's what happens with so many entrepreneurs. I'm going to start an email list. I'm going to start an email list. I'm going to start an email list. And they will end up starting to collect names, but they don't know what to do with them. They have no idea what to do with them. Or they'll collect the names and they'll think, I'm going to start sending emails, but they never do. Or they will start sending emails and they'll say, well, I just don't want to bug people. Like, I don't want to bug people by sending them emails all the time. Well, how many of you are on my email list? I send you an email at least one a week. Do you feel like I'm bugging you? Because if you do, you can obviously hit the unsubscribe at the bottom, but I hope you don't feel like I'm bugging you. I hope that you feel like there's value and interesting, fun things inside of Jen's email. And if you're listening and you're like, gosh, I didn't even know she had an email list, you can go to jenniferallwood.com/ where do you go? Who knows? Who knows actually where you go, Zeke? Never mind. And so, anywho, hang on, Zeke. Hang on. Okay, gotcha. But if gathering people's emails, number one, people give you their email address, assuming, yeah, you're probably going to email me. So please don't feel like you're bugging people. And you need to be doing things constantly to try to build that email list, build that email list, and build that email list. And then you also need to make sure you're using said email list, whether or not it's on a consistent basis, which we personally do and I personally like, or just when you have sales and things. You can't be like completely gone from people's email and then show up every couple of months and expect to still be relevant, because people are like, huh, what did I sign up for? So friend, I really want for you to work hard on building your email list. I want you to be gathering people's emails, and then I want you to be sending them things. And then a lot of times people are like, well, what do I send them? Well, I don't know. I want you to think right now about the favorite emails that you get from people. There are like 4 people who, when I get an email from them, I open every single one. Every single one. And I want you to think about that, because I bet you can think of some people you open every one of their emails. Now, I want you to tell me what makes you open those emails. Probably a really juicy headline, number 1. Number 2, you probably have come to really find value inside of the email. Okay, so why did you find value? I think of one business coach whose emails that I get all the time, and I love them. Every single time I get one from her, I'm like, I learned something. That's a great perspective. That was amazing. So you're getting some value that way. Then I think of some of the emails that I get that are product driven. They're, I have purchased a shirt or a dress or something from them. I love their emails because I always love like the pictures and how they style clothing. So I'm getting value that way. So when you're thinking about, well, what would I even send to people in an email? Well, I don't know. How can you add value to the people who are on your list? If you sell home decor, can you show them how to style something? Can you show them some things that are coming up, as hot in the spring of 2020? Like, think about what would be valuable to your clients, and you're not bugging them when you add value to their life. Does that make sense? So get an email list and use the said email list. That is point number 3. If you're still like, I don't even know how to do that, then I literally want you to almost go Google, how do I start an email list? When I first started, by the way, until we hit about 20,000 names on our email list, we have used Aweber. When we hit about 20,000, we switched over to Entreport. Not that I am endorsing Entreport, because I don't know that I am, but that is our current CRM, Contact Record Management System. It's a fancy word for it. That's who keeps all of our emails and helps us determine who to send emails to about any given topic. So that was point number 3 on ways to protect your online business. Make sure you have an email list. And point number 4 has to do with your website. Okay. So listen, there's 2 things that I want to bring up here. And they're totally different concerning your website, but both things are really, really important. So number 1, if you have someone make a website for you, I am shocked by the handful of people, just because I wouldn't have thought that this was like a thing, who are in my coaching group who have asked somebody to make them a website. And so the website developer has made them a website, but never given them controls of the website. Well, then there's a falling out of some sort, and the website developer is no longer working for the business owner, but the website developer takes the website with them. In other words, my entrepreneurs can't even get into their own website. Okay, so here's what I want to say about that. Number 1, if you are going to be asking somebody else to do a website for you, I still want you to be the one who goes and buys the URL. I still want you to be the one who asks for a contract from the web developer, and that there are things in writing concerning the fact that this is your website and that they are working for you, but that you have full control of the website, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that you're just going to give them access to things, because you always need to be able to get into your own things. Like, you've got to have access to your own assets. If you don't have access to your own assets, they really aren't yours. It's a pretty thing that people are able to find on the internet, but it's only useful if it's yours. And if you don't even have your password to get into your own website, you are in deep duty. Okay, so somebody somewhere is listening to this right now, and she just gasped. I saw it in the spirit, because you literally have somebody creating a website for you right now, and you don't really know all that much about them. And so far, you have not had any access given to you for your own website. You don't even know how to get into the back end. Listen to me. Even if you don't know how to fix, change, or anything else on your website, which, by the way, that's me right here, you still need to know how to get into your own things. Make the call, send the email right now to find out, because you should be giving access to other people. They shouldn't be having to give you access to your own property. Does that make sense? It would be like you having a home and and you own it. You don't rent it, but you still have to call a landlord every time you want in. It's not really yours then. Does that make sense? So that's one thing I want to tell you about your website. Number two, when it comes, this doesn't really have to do with your website, but just kind of your computer. I use a company called Backblaze to back up everything that's on my computer every night. So I guess this is maybe point number 5, but I lump them together into the same pile. I don't even know why. But the reason I use Backblaze is because it's not that much money. And years ago, I lost everything on my hard drive of my computer, everything. And I was able to like send my hard drive off to this company in Texas, which for a lot of money was able to recover the majority of it. But at that time, somebody suggested to me that I use a company like Backblaze, who will back up everything that's on my PC every night. If you are not currently having everything backed up on a consistent basis, I really suggest that for you, because then you don't have to worry if your computer goes out, or you just, it takes the what if this happens out of the back of your mind, which is super duper helpful. And just, here's the thing with being an entrepreneur. There are so many what if scenarios that can happen. What if these people quit? What if I don't make any sales? What if I go down the drain? What if I get sued? What if I can't make payroll? What if I don't have enough money for taxes? Like, there are so many things for you to think about, that whatever you can put things into place that help you to sleep better at night, you need to do that. And having something like a Backblaze, and by the way, this is not like, I'm not getting a gosh darn thing for making that recommendation. That just happens to be who I use. But if you can put some things like that into play, that 2-factor authentication, if you can put that into play, if you can put some things into play in your business just to give you a little more breathing room and some margin in your brain, it is so worth it. So friends, I hope that this was helpful today. Just as a quick recap, the 4 ways you can protect yourself in your online business are: if you're doing Etsy, make sure you also got your own website. Number 2, if you're doing Facebook, that's fantastic. Just make sure you also have a second social media. You're using 2-factor authentication. You've got somebody else as an admin. Make sure that your ads account is not loosey-goosey with who you're letting in there. Point number 3, if you are not using an email list, you best, and then you actually need to use it. You need to grow it, and you need to be sending people emails. And point number 4, you need to have access to your own website, and you also need to be backing up your own computer every single night. All right, friend, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Jennifer Allwood Show here on the YouTubes. I hope you'll go download at jenniferallwood.com/email list some things that can help you get your email list going. And I hope that you'll share this with a friend and subscribe to the channel. I'm always trying to do what I can to help other women grow their small businesses in the online space. So I will see you again. Until next week, stay creative.